LiberalViewer presents.
So I wanted to show you a few clips from this story I saw on the Kelly File last Friday, December 26. It's not actually Megyn Kelly, who's the host of the Kelly File. This is Shannon Bream, who was filling in, talking to this guy, Eric Metaxas, who had written an editorial in the Wall Street Journal, which is owned by the parent company of Fox News, and nowhere in this story do they ever mention that the Wall Street Journal is also owned by News Corp, but they use it to promote the idea that science is increasingly telling us that God exists, but none of the arguments are really valid arguments, as I'll explain after I show the introduction from Shannon Bream on the Kelly File last Friday here.
A surprising new theory seems to connect the existence of God and science, as our continued search for life on other planets brings the scientific community closer and closer to the conclusion that our universe was, in fact, created by something other than just a Big Bang. Eric Metaxas is author of Miracles, What They Are, Why They Happen, and How They Can Change Your Life. All right, Eric, you have a great piece in the Wall Street Journal about this, but there are a lot of people out there who say you can't mix science and religion. They can't coexist.
Well, it's not really mixing science and religion. It's sort of following what does science lead us to believe, right? Science can only comment on what is inside the universe, what the Big Bang created. Science can't really tell us what happened before the Big Bang. Science has limits. But the more we know about science, and this is literally in the last 30 years, the more we're led to believe, and I mean this is straight up, we're led to believe that there is no way that everything could have just happened. And when I say that, the odds against it are so astronomical that it becomes hilarious. So if anybody's looking for good news at this time of year with all the bad news around us, the good news is science is leading us clearly to believe that we never just got here, that couldn't have happened.
Now notice how he uses the word clearly to stand in for any actual evidence, and I've put a link down to the Wall Street Journal article, and it's actually to the Google search, because if you look at the top result from that Google search and click on it, you can read the entire article for free without having to sign up for the Wall Street Journal. Otherwise you'll have to, if I were to put a link directly to the article, it would ask you to pay. But if you do it through the Google search, you can read the whole article, and the article is bogus, and he tries to make the arguments again, starting in response to a very softball question, of course, from Shannon Bream over in this clip.
Well, why do you think for decades, in some cases in centuries, people have said that science, there is proof, whether it's in the fossil record or other evolutionary theories, that there was nothing and then suddenly there was something? And for years they've said that's the dominant theory, it's the only one that makes sense. Why is that changing?
Well, I mean, there's a lot that's changing. First of all, the more science we know, the more we know how difficult it is, for example, for the universe to exist, not just for life to exist. So in one chapter in the book, I talk about how difficult it is for life to exist. But in another chapter, I talk about how the more the cosmologists and the physicists know about what happened at the Big Bang, the more those of them who are atheists are having their atheism shaken by what they see. It doesn't mean that they believe in God, but they know that, you know, the atheistic view that we just got here by random forces, it just doesn't make logical sense. So they're looking for alternative explanations, and I think we probably got a pretty simple explanation right in front of us.
Yeah, well, God is a simple explanation. I'll have to give him that. But if you go over and you read this Wall Street Journal article I was talking about, Science Increasingly Makes the Case for God, by this guy, Eric Metaxas, I mean, the arguments just don't really make that much sense. He talks about, you know, how the factors needed for a planet to be habitable, there aren't just like a few, there are like 60 different factors, and it becomes less and less likely that these planets exist. And I started looking for articles, and I still see that there are all these supposedly habitable planets that exist in our universe. I mean, the big flaw in his argument is that just because something is unlikely to happen in an infinite universe, things that are unlikely to happen are going to eventually happen. That's the thing, that the universe is so vast that unlikely events are going to occur in lots and lots of places because there are so many places. That's the point he seems to be missing. And the other point, he talks about like the cosmological constants, like the ratio between different forces in the universe being necessary. If they were off by just a little bit, then the universe couldn't even exist. And that's sort of this new version of this old argument that life can't exist except under these very special circumstances, and because it's so unlikely, that means there must have been some intelligent design or God involved. But the thing is, most of the universe is empty of life. It's only in these few rare places like the Earth, apparently. I mean, as so far as we know, that life exists, and that that just means that it only exists in these far apart places. And then the whole thing about the cosmological constants, I actually addressed that in a video I made a while back called Stephen Colbert versus Stephen Hawking's Atheism, which that's one of my misunderstood videos where people think that I don't understand that Stephen Colbert was playing a satirical conservative pundit, even though I say that in like the first 5 seconds of the video and refer to it several times during the video. But if you watch that video, I point out that this argument from Stephen Hawking that the fact that there are multiple universes, or there's this theory of multiple universes, since there are all these multiple universes, the fact that we live in a universe where these cosmological constants are exactly right for life to exist and for the universe to exist, well, that's because we happen to live in that universe with those physical laws and with all these multiple universes. With multiple universe theory is still just a theory and not even the only theory, but at least in that sense, the whole thing is ridiculous. And to end the whole ridiculous segment from Fox News last Friday, I want to show the last clip. This way you'll basically have seen the entire story, where they seem to claim that you don't have to check your brain at the door to believe in something based on faith, even though that kind of is the definition of faith. But here's how they try to get around that in this clip.
Okay, so there have been many who have hidden their faith in the scientific community or kind of downplayed it, but it seems like they are becoming more vocal with some of these discoveries and saying, listen, I'm not ashamed of it, but both what I know intellectually and my heart can match. They can work together. Well,
listen, I mean, actually, there's a whole chapter in my book of Miracles on how science and faith are totally compatible. And the idea that they're not compatible, it's ridiculous. I mean, it's sort of part of the narrative we bought into over the last 40 or 50 years or more. It's simply not true. Some of the greatest scientists, even if they're not believers, have said many pro-faith things. And I think it's very important for us to know that there's no reason you have to check your brain at the door if you want to believe in the God of the Bible or believe in any kind of God. It doesn't make sense to do that.
All right, Eric, we got to leave it there. Great new book, Miracles. Folks should check it out. Thanks, Eric. We'll be right back.
Thank you.
But somehow I think that was all sort of a marketing deal trying to sell the scientific basis of God to the Fox News viewership and get them to buy the Wall Street Journal and that guy's book about miracles. And other than that, there didn't seem to be a lot of substance to that, so I thought that was kind of comical. But you can let me know what you think. Was there really any news in that Fox News story? And regarding the argument, when low probability events occur in an infinite universe or possibly multiverse, is that proof of the existence of God?
YouTube, you decide.